Greetings, welcome back to Destination, your place for all things Destino. I'm your host, Poti, and today we have the Viewer Podcast coming to you from the Destino Battle Pass. Greetings, welcome back to Viewer Podcast. Oh no, I hear it.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So, joining me today, we have some viewers, maybe some hosts. We have, first off, Tommy Revolution, host of the season. How are you doing, Tommy?
I'm doing well.
Glad to hear. And then we're joined by currently 2 viewers. That number may grow. First off, Elizabeth, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. You?
Oh, fantastic. Excited to be here. And
Same.
oh yeah, everyone's happy to be here. And lastly, Nathaniel. How are you doing, Nathaniel?
I'm doing good, but it's pretty late, so I have to be a bit quiet.
Forgivable. All right. So, exciting season coming our way. So this is the first time we are doing a viewer podcast, for those of you who don't know. And so we're just going to jump right into it. We're just going to go straight into the cast assessment. So, let's go alphabetically here. We're just going to break down this cast player by player, get our thoughts on them, if anyone should have any. And let's begin with the first player from the Fans tribe, BT. So, BT, bit of a name in the community, probably one of, if not the biggest name on the Fans tribe, big player from the Survivor.org wiki side of things. Does anyone have any immediate thoughts on BT?
E.T. is already amazing with the cult and...
Cole.
yeah, BT is the standout of the fans tribe already. Yeah.
So, I didn't pay much attention to in any viewing lounges for Survivor.org wiki. Wasn't BT a bit of a chaotic player on his 10 years there? Because you're already seeing that come into huge force here, especially because BT said he wants to play even more aggressive, it seems like, in his VL confessionals. The only fan submitting VL confessional so far, too. So it's kind of interesting to see, like, hitting the ground running. You love to see it, like, day one, someone with that kind of energy. So, very exciting.
Yeah, and he's already gotten himself sent to the observatory as well.
Ooh, yeah, the big mysterious observatory in the sky. So, we'll see what wonders lay in there, exactly what kind of decision or thing BT has to do there. But anyone have any ideas on how BT will do? What do you feel like BT will end up becoming this season?
I actually think BT's probably gonna do pretty well. I mean, it could, with a player like BT, it could go anywhere, really. So hard to predict. But I have a good feeling about BT this season. I think he will be able to tone it down a bit as a player, even if he's really loud in VLs and stuff. I think he'll do good, probably, yeah.
Alright, Elizabeth, Tommy, either of you have any immediate thoughts on BT?
I personally have never met him or seen him play, but just like based on his VLs, I feel like he'll either go too hard too fast or either like make it pretty far.
Yeah. I feel like that's going to be a common thing with the fans, like BT being one of the few that is even recognized. So we're just going to be running through like what Little said in their introduction, and then, yeah. So.
Yeah, I think for the fans, like him and Maddie are like the only two I've like seen or heard of before, so.
Yeah. So it's going to be very interesting to see if someone hops on that knows any, but I think all of us are here primarily because we do know the favorites, and that's going to be where the real meat of it is anyways. So yeah, BT, really the big question mark going to be, can he survive long enough with this kind of playstyle, or is he going to make himself too much of a target? I hope not. I love this kind of style. It's what I made my money on in Destino, so I'd love to see it just keep on going. So with that said...
I'm not allowed to have my input. I'm a host.
I asked, do you have any thoughts, and you didn't speak up, so... That's on you, Tommy Revolution.
I'm not going to talk over someone.
All right. Well, if you want to say something, say something.
Okay, I had a little cast assessment based off their apps, and this is why I said for BT. BT wants to play big, which I love to watch as a host, but there's a potential he can hurt himself. He needs to have some caution, or I don't see him making single digits.
All right. So with that said, let's move on to another player that we should have a better idea on, a former player, and this is our first favorite, Said. So I'll say some things because with the favorite past, Said very strong strategic player. You know, has won a lot of orgs off this stuff. Really one of the driving game players in his inaugural season, Serengeti, and
Excuse me.
coming back, he's been part of the community ever since, very devoted. So, he has that kind of energy behind him to do well. And so I'm thinking he'll do very well. And seeing this sort of trend in the past few seasons of, the winners generally being these big name tenured org players, I think Sed may follow that track. If there's anyone I have my money on right now, it's probably Sed, believe it or not. Though I would never admit that to his face. um, but I think Sed honestly has a really good setup here and could do really well depending on what factors the twists come into play with. So does anyone else have any immediate thoughts on Sed?
Yeah, actually not. Zed is capable to do of doing really well, and I think he might do really well this season as well. But I think there's potential that he won't really vibe as well with these specific favorites as some others might. I think there's a slight risk there. I think if Zed can survive the early game, he probably goes far. But I think there's a slight risk he might be an early boot.
All right. Elizabeth, Tommy, how do you all feel about Zed?
I'm very happy to see Sed back. He was one of my favorite players in Serengeti. I think he was up there as one of my winner picks, but I don't completely remember. And I do think he knows what he needs to do to change up his game to have a better run than he did in Serengeti. And he made Final Five in Serengeti, so he already has like a good track record. I do see him as a winner pick in this season. It all depends if the stars align in his favor.
Oh, yeah. Elizabeth, do you have any immediate impressions here?
So I only figured out who Said was back in October because I played Phoenix with Ryan. So like I've never seen him play before, but just like but from seeing him like talk about his placements and like VLs, it seems like he's done well in games.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the first time I'd ever heard of Seb was when he won Nebviver. So, I mean, that's a big org winning over there. So, yeah, I think Sed definitely has some good shot here. So, with that said, let's move on to a favorite that's a little more under the radar, but someone I think can be a pretty interesting player to watch this season. And that is Chris. So, Chris comes to us from Raja Ampat, season 14, and was part of a pretty successful pre-merge tribe. And into the merge, her starting tribe sort of got targeted and whittled down over the course of time, and she was a victim of that. But she was an awesome character to watch. She's a little on the older side compared to the rest of our typical cast of players. Something that can honestly be said about this cast overall is we do have a lot of older players in it. But yeah, it was really fun seeing her get into that game and work with a lot of the personalities in there, because she herself was one of the more interesting personalities to come out of that cast, and so I'm actually very excited to see her back. And I think she's going to be one of the most underestimated players on her starting tribe, just because there's going to be a lack of familiarity with her, and that's going to be something that I think will work very well to her advantage, so long as she can strike some good social bonds. And I think, yeah, she has tons of potential, and this is her chance to finally get out there and prove it. So, how y'all feeling about Chris?
Well, I mean, I guess I'll start again. I actually don't have any experience with Chris personally. I've never seen her like as a host or a player or anything. Unlike almost all other favorites, so I don't really know a lot about how well she plays. Yeah, I think you're probably right in a lot of things you said. I don't have a lot to say about Chris. Yeah.
All right, all right. Tell me what's your write up for Chris?
Okay. So for Chris, through her interview, she said that she wants to like start off on a clean slate, which is easy for her because no other Raja Pop people. And wants to step up her gameplay. I overall don't know how she will fare on this cast, which is like that's a big question mark for me. So it's for her, it's just more so like watching it and seeing how it turns out for her.
Also, welcome hi to the call. So, just super quick hi. We've gone through BT and said so far. What's that?
And then that's 15 winner right there.
Oh yeah, season 15 winner. Assuming Hi can even hear me because I see that the image was dropped that says RTC connecting, so maybe not. Hi, can you hear us? I'll wait till we have confirmation on that. So Elizabeth, I'm not sure if you do, just because once again one of the more under the radar, less obvious people. But do you have any first thoughts on Chris?
I think Chris is one of like the few favorites that I genuinely have no clue who they are, just because I've never seen them around before.
Fair enough. All right. Well, we do have someone who just joined that may be a little more familiar. Welcome, Andrew. How you doing? If you can hear me.
Oh, pretty good. I've kind of just slept the entire day, so yippee.
Fair enough. I feel that. Right now we're actually discussing Chris from your season, so good timing. Do you have any thoughts on how Chris might do this season by chance?
I think if she just gets into like a solid position early on, she'll be like fine. Like from my season at least, like apparently she like never talked to Chroma at all, but which is interesting. But like based on my personal interactions, I think if she's just able to get like a solid footing early on, she'll probably go deep, in my opinion at least.
All right, perfect. So, let's just continue down the list then, shall we? So we're gonna jump into a favorite that I know one of you is dying to talk about, and that is Gavin. So honestly, I'll let you go first, Nathaniel, because I think you'll kill me if I don't.
No, it's fine. You can start if you want to.
Okay, so Gavin played last season, obviously. Very old school player. Awesome to have on. You know, I've played with Gavin a bunch before, and so getting the opportunity to host him was really sweet. And right away, less active. Very struggled with the sort of Discord format of it and everything, but he ended up turning it around, getting into his groove. And it was really fun seeing him try to figure out like the differences in orgs, how much faster they play now, and all that stuff compared to how they used to. And I think towards the end of his game was when he was really shining, having all these strategic plays, pulling blindsides. You know, he was leading the charge on a lot of these votes, and so he has adapted well. And I think now that he has a taste of the experience, he can come out to this season and maybe get to it a little quicker, assuming his activity picks up at the beginning compared to last time, which I think could be the concern, busy guy and all. But he showed a lot of potential last season on his ability to play the new and improved org, and I'd love to see more from him in that regard. So, take it away. Who has thoughts on Gavin?
Yeah, I have a lot of experience with Gavin. I think we've played 35 orgs together, which is quite a bit. So I know firsthand that Gavin has the potential to do super well. I mean, he has won many orgs in the past. And I also know he mentioned in a VL or something last season that the inactivity was a strategy, and I think that now that he's played the Discord season, he's probably going to do really well this season. Just needed to get a bit of a running start, and now he knows some Discord stuff works and stuff. I think he'll be able to do real well. I'm not sure if he'll win. He's not my winner pick, but I think he'll do real well.
All right, who's on the Gavin train? Also, welcome Kat to the party. How you doing, Kat?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Living the dream.
Hell yeah.
So, yeah, anyone have any thoughts on good old Gavin?
I would say something, but the thing is, I did not do a write up for Gavin or any favorite beyond him. It's weird for me to see Gavin. I told you this morning, Petite. Uh, Gavin, I was very excited to see him in Flaming Cliffs last season because I actually played Lou with him back in 2019, my first org. And around the time I started is when he sort of disconnected from the community. So to see him back, pretty awesome. I've never really had much experience with him as a player, but he's on the season for a reason. I think he could do well, but I'm not sure. It really depends how he interacts with the other favorites. And as Nathaniel said, like newer to Discord games, he was able to adapt very well. I do think he will fare well on this type of season, but again, I'm not completely sure.
Fair enough. All right. Elizabeth, Kat, Andrew, any of you have any Gavin from last season?
I've never seen him play, so I can't really comment much.
In
Yep.
the same boat. I've
Fair
never
enough.
seen him.
Also,
yeah.
I'm gonna apologize ahead of time for how many times I've said that, and continue to say that.
No worries. Obviously, like for so many of these people, the only thing we can really look at is like cast intros and whatever the other people are saying. So I can't expect you all to know everybody on the cast. No worries. So yeah. Actually, I'll take this opportunity super quick since Kat's here as well now. So far we've gone through BT, Said, and Chris. Obviously, Andrew just commented on Chris, but you know Chris from your time in Raja Ampot. So if any of those three particularly,
Yeah.
do you have any thoughts on BT, Said, or Chris that you'd like to share?
I don't know two of them, but I do know Chris because I played with them and I was actually aligned with them. Seeing Chris in the game, I'm super excited. I'm just super, super worried that they're not going to be like as active because season 14 wasn't the most active season ever. So I hope it wasn't the most active. It was just Chroma and company, and then everybody else was silent.
That doesn't
Also,
sound
did you
right.
intentionally misspell Chris's name in cast intros?
They did
Wait,
not.
what?
Chris's name.
Y'all misspelled Chris's name.
That's all on Shade. That's on Shade. It says Kirst.
I rooted for Churs, dude. Forever will be rooting for Churs.
Oh yeah, classic churrs. All right, well. With that said, you spelled it right. All
I
right.
was trying to misspell this, and I'm just dyslexic. Don't mind me.
All right, with that said, let's move back to the fans tribe. So we'll see if anyone has any thoughts here. But we have Jess. So reading through Jess's intro here, typically these intros are a lot of just like personal life stuff, which sure that's all interesting, but it's hard to like really develop a player profile off of them. But I think they seem to be someone who knows a lot about a lot and shows a sense of activity during the season. And I feel like the one piece of information I want to skip back to now is the list of everyone BT had in the cult, and Jess does not appear to be in it, unfortunately. So, who knows? Maybe it'll turn around. Of course, you have people like Gavin from last season who were on the outs. So uh, a lot of these fans, once again, broken record thing here. Not going to have too much of a thought on, but I think Jess does show some promise, and looking forward to see exactly how that fans tribe develops. Anyone have thoughts on Jess by chance?
I mean, what stood out most to me was the thing you mentioned with BT's cult, because there's 5 people in it, so anyone who's not in it, because we also know that BT was sent to the observatory, so obviously it has some sort of coherence and power. So anyone not in it is probably not in the best position right now, but BT also got more votes than just the people he could have mentioned. I think it's a possibility that Jess is still included there. I think of the people that BT didn't mention, they're probably in one of the best spots, I would guess, based on, as you say, their intro, but yeah, I don't know.
Yep.
I get positive vibes from Jess personally. I've never seen him play before, so kind of brand new. But I'm super excited to see what she has to offer because her little cast intro just makes me seem like someone I would want to interact with. You know.
Absolutely, yeah. Also, welcome Sungmo. How you doing? But yeah, obviously not much we can really say here. Tommy, as a host, do you happen to have any immediate thoughts? I don't know if you've gone down the fans list in full with your write-ups or anything.
I did for the fans. I just didn't do for the favorites.
Okay.
For Jess, I really like Jess, and I want to see them do well. She plans on being honest and not put her true self aside, which I can't figure out will work or not. I'm eager to see. But overall, I like Jess. She gives this like energy that she will do well, and is like somewhat hero vibes. I just don't know for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right then. Well, if no one has any other thoughts on Jess, we can move back to the favorites briefly for
Excuse me.
Cam. So, Kim, the sole member of our Destino staff playing this season, so that's pretty nice. So she's been an admin for a little while, hosted a couple seasons here and there, so obviously has that sort of connection. So while I don't know much about Cam's gameplay in Destino specifically, I have played with Cam outside of this, and very social-driven player who I think pretty much will always bond with any group of people. And so I think I would be shocked if Cam left before a swap here. But I think she'll have good early footing, and especially sort of the factor of you're playing on Destino, an org that you help run, you're going to want to do well, right? It's just that personal sort of passion for it. So I have pretty high
The
expectations for
same
Cam.
cannot
I
be
think
said
she'll do
about
pretty
Devontae.
well. But I don't see her winning. I feel like she's going to be that sort of like late game threat everyone's trying to take out at the same time. But I think she'll have a pretty good shot making it to that mid merge point. So, anyone have any thoughts on Cam?
Yeah, oh,
Oh, Nathaniel, you can go
Elizabeth.
first.
I think Nathaniel muted first.
Oh, you go.
Oh yeah, so I actually played with Cam on Bora Bora, and then I've played 2 other games with her. And well, I've never worked with her personally. Like she's like a social person and like a strategic person. And when I played Canadian with her, she's like not afraid to like create alliances and stuff like that. So I think she'll do well. Like I think when we played Phoenix together, like she only went out as like merge vote just because I idled her out. So she definitely has like the social ability to make like a long run in the game.
Okay, I'll go now then. Yeah, so I've only played with Cam once as well, same season as Poteet. And to repeat what others have said, I think Cam's best strength is that she's just so incredibly likable. I mean, I think Cam's one of the most just likable players I've ever played with. It's kind of insane, really. And Cam's actually my winner pick for this season, which might sound a bit weird because Cam I'm not sure if she's won a season before. I know she's often merge boot, which is kind of strange. It's a sad curse. But yeah, I think this is Cam's season too. I have a good feeling about Cam this season. I think she'll probably be able to get to the end. I think she's probably going to be a late game threat, yeah, but Cam is also capable of winning immunities and stuff if she needs to. I think she has enough experience by now, enough game knowledge to be able to maneuver the end game into a winning position.
All right. Anyone else have any first thoughts on Cam?
Hello. Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with UBT about like the idea of Cam being a late game threat. She's just a great like. She's incredibly social and probably one of the better social players I have played with. And I do think when it comes to risk, she's not afraid to take them. I just don't see her winning because I feel like again the late game threat. She's gonna be. I do think she's gonna be taken out sometime before the finale. But I do see her at least making those single digits.
All right. Well, if anyone else has any thoughts on Cam, dot 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 dun da 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 dun.
My only thought about Cam is I think they're going to be a late game threat. I just to bounce off everybody else.
Oh yeah.
Never played with them, so
Absolutely. All right. Well, with that said, let's move on, and we can go to a string of four fans. So I'm sure all these are going to be pretty much the same conversation here. So first off, Kyle. So the one thing I want to say about Kyle that is somewhat different is Kyle's one of the two old members of this tribe, right? Over 30. Yes, one of the two over 30, along with Rob down the road. So, I mean, this being a cast that skews over that's older, that's interesting because you also have a 27, 25-year-old. So I wonder if that's going to sort of add a little bit of relationship at some point, especially because, once again, I need to skip back to that good old BT cult, which Kyle's outside of. And so you almost wonder maybe once again that could just be a sign of not one of the first five to be super social on that first day, but maybe Kyle can find bonding moments with these older people or something like that, and you can see sort of old folks getting together, old folks being 30-ish, which not crazy old, but still. Um, but it's harder.
Can I add something real quick?
You can add something if you wish.
This is Kyle's first org.
That makes sense. So yeah, Kyle's first org. So yeah, do you feel Kyle has a good understanding of it so far? Because you almost wonder, like with like a lot of those new players, they don't really understand fully what the org takes and can struggle with it. So that could be also part of the reason he's out of the cult, for instance.
As far as Kyle goes, like he is a question mark without a doubt. But reading his application, he seems to have a general understanding of what it could be. As well, he has a background that will probably be good to implement into orgs because I think he said he's actually a teacher or used to be a teacher, which I think would be beneficial as an org player, but we'll see.
Yeah.
For me, I don't know and Kyle's going to win, but I'm just eager to see how he's going to do. That's what I'm excited about.
Of course. Anyone have any thoughts on Kyle?
I mean, from my experience, first time org players tend to be either really, really good or not that great. There's rarely a spot in the middle. So, I don't know where Kyle's gonna end up either. But I think he's either gonna do really well or be one of the first out, based on the fact that it's his first org. So,
Of course. Any other first thoughts?
I'm not getting the best vibes game wise for Kyle. I feel like he's gonna be one of the first few out.
Yeah, I can see that. I feel like right now, obviously, we can really only go off of what BT's been saying, so it's a little hard to judge. But I mean, obviously, getting sent to the observatory may prove BT right at some level. So, uh, you definitely get the vibe that like the people on the outs of that might just be on the outs. Absolutely.
Yeah, I get you.
Well then, we can move on to the next player, which is the last season of Survivor Org Wiki, which also had its fair share of strife and complications. We won't go into that, of course, but um, obviously, coming fresh off that, probably looking for a better experience out of this one. But yeah, I think Maddie shows some decent potential. Really, the one thing I can say about Maddie is I don't know how many of you have been reading the tribe chats as of late, but I hit a fake idol clue that says this is not an idol clue on the wiki. And Maddie found it and dropped it in tribe chat and said, "Okay, pal, thanks." So I just found that pretty funny. But yeah, I think Maddie shows some pretty decent potential. Anyone have any thoughts on Maddie to start?
They help Maddie host their own org. Uh, so seeing Maddie on the cast is super exciting because I want Maddie to do well. But also, Maddie likes showing a lot of their cards very fast. And doing that isn't really the best option. It can get you far, but it can't get you a win. With Maddie, super cool person. I'm just worried that they already showed some of their cards that they found something in the wiki about the little idol clue. People are gonna at some point realize, maybe right before merge or early merge, that Maddie's gonna be a threat.
Very possible.
Those are my thoughts.
Tommy, what's your write-up say here?
It's very different than what Kat said. For me, like just based off Maddie's app, it almost seemed like she was only she wants to provide entertainment value rather than have that gameplay value. I could be wrong. I am pretty sure I will be wrong. I do get the sense she could be a solid social player. Again, I'm not 100% sure. It's moral of the story. I'm not sure about Maddie.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat with you, not sure, but I hope Maddie does well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fair enough.
All right, and with that, we move into. Come on, load. Marcus. So Marcus, one of the youngest members of the fans tribe, on the other end of it, seems to be someone with a wide variety of interests, which I think always goes well in bonding with people in Survivor, um, and wants to play a chameleon type of game, knowing how and when to make a move. So a little on the slower, more patient side, I feel like would be sort of the goal there. Already got himself right into the heart of that BT group. So maybe Marcus is just biding his time to do something big down the road. We'll see. But yeah, I think Marcus shows some decent promise. Anyone have thoughts on Marcus to start it off?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that Marcus mentioned the chameleon thing you said in the intro, but the quote is, "In my first game I managed to win by playing a chameleon type of game." So Marcus has actually won before. I think that says a lot. Marcus seems to be a pretty good player. I think Marcus is probably gonna be one of the better fans this season. Like, Marcus, Maddie, and BT are probably the standouts, I think, right now to make it far. So yeah, I'm positive on Marcus.
What are your thoughts on Marcus? Tommy Revolution. Since you have all the inside info.
I actually have some high hopes for Marcus. I feel like he will be a good all rounder as a player, and I feel like he will surprise a lot of people in this cast.
Alrighty. Anyone else have any first impressions here? I'll take that as a no. So, with that said, let's head into Marissa. So Marissa's cast intro was a little interesting. Basically, issues communicating. Goofy character. A lot of people take me as weird, cryptic, but strangely nice. However, Marissa's already gotten into that little cult alliance, so that's pretty promising. So you almost wonder if Marissa's read is just being a little hard on herself, or whether that's going to come out more in force later on. But I mean, I do like having goofy characters, depending on what exactly that entails. So hopefully we'll get to see some real personality shine through if that's what that entails. And yeah, I mean, being in the cult, that's where you want to be right now. So it's good that Marissa's wormed her way in there, and we'll see how it goes. Anyone have thoughts on Marissa?
I'm glad Marissa is drinking the Kool-Aid right now, because I played with Marissa in what in org recently. It was Visual Org Season 10, where Marissa I think got like 7-6. She is a super good player, and the Goofy character literally is just Goofy I didn't expect to see Marissa even here, so I'm super excited. Yeah, I think Marissa's gonna be able to make it deep.
Awesome. How you feeling about Marissa, Tommy?
Okay, for Marissa, I said Marissa will be a fun one to watch. She has no problem being identified as a threat and going against Ray with blind sense and flipping. I think she'll enjoy this season.
Awesome.
Again, based off her app.
Yeah, of course. Well, anyone have any other thoughts on Marissa before we continue on? Also, welcome back, Elizabeth.
I think, yeah, I mean, I'll just echo what the others have said. I have a positive feeling about.
Yeah,
I have a positive feeling about Marissa as well.
Right.
I will say, I think from my very small understanding of Marissa, it seems like she's the kind of player who might struggle in an unfavorable swap or something like that. But otherwise, I think she'll be fine.
All right. Well, let's head back to some people who we know a little better, right? About time, right? So, our first favorite we're jumping back to is from the Serengeti, Nat. And Nat was so fun to watch in Serengeti. Older player compared to the rest of the cast, but really did a great job as a strategist. Was very much in the mix of everything, and just was very, very sweet and conversational. Did such a great job working around and with everybody. And I think Nat could be a real force in this game, because you don't suspect Nat, but Nat is always plotting or planning or doing or getting along with somebody. You know, Nat is here to play the game, whatever that takes for her to do. Now, the one snag potentially in Nat's game, and also looking back at Sed and Nat were a little bit on opposite sides at points of Serengeti. And so I wonder how that's going to be, because I've already seen stuff from the both of them talking about that, I believe, or at least from Sed. And it's sort of the question of, you know, are they going to be able to get together and iron things out? Is one of them going to take an early hit? But I'd love to see Nat do well, because Nat is such a uniquely fun to watch player, and it's great to see her back here. Anyone have thoughts on Nat?
I guess I'll talk. I don't really know Nat at all, aside from watching her season. But yeah, I think she'll probably do pretty well. I agree. I mean, she's the oldest player on the cast, but I don't think that's gonna drag her down that much. I don't think she'll win. I think she's probably going to be late go far in this season.
Agreed. Also, welcome Foe. So, Tommy, what are your thoughts on Nat coming back?
Hmm. Good question, because like Nat was enjoyable and Serengeti, and very unique player, being on the older side and still being this dominant force in the game. I do think, really, I don't know much she could change. I really don't know. I think she was, I do think she's gonna at least make the merge, but I don't know how deep into the merge.
All right. Anyone else have thoughts on Serengeti Star Nat before we continue on? All right, let's move on. We're going to go to very much a fan favorite, I think, coming back. It's been a while since we've seen him here, but it is Neb. Neb coming back from Bora
Oh no, a
Bora.
furry.
What'd you just say?
I said, oh no, a furry.
Oh, okay, I didn't hear you. Fo just messaged me heading out because I hate Neb. All right. So,
I still never got back to Blue player. So yeah.
So yeah, I'll keep mine short and sweet because I've never actually played on a tribe with Neb or anything. My only experience with Neb is being hosted by Neb. So I think Neb, very tenured in the community, knows a lot of people, and obviously has what it takes to do well because has a history of high placements. And I'm interested to see just how well Neb can play here. Now, my one worry is Neb probably had a weaker start just due to being busy at the time of this. I know he's been at a convention recently, but can they sort of turn it around and find their groove during the rest of the season? Time will tell. I'm curious to see how Neb will play here. Who has thoughts on Neb?
So Neb's actually a very interesting player, I think. I've hosted them a couple of times. I've played with them as well, and from what I can see, Neb really has two states. I'm hoping for the former one. I actually think that's what we'll get. But as you said, the furry convention has taken a lot of their time, and I think Neb might be an early victim if the favorite tribe loses a lot early on. But I'm hoping Neb goes far, and I know they have the potential to.
Yeah, actually, last year I played both my Phoenix seasons with Neb, and for the season 11 he went pre-merge, but then for like second chances, he unironically like that was one of his like more social games, so he really took like theme of second chances, and we got to see like Neb in his prime, and like he got fifth that season. So like when he's really active, like he has the potential to like go far, and like he got fifth because of like his good social game.
All right. Anyone else have any thoughts on Neb?
Yeah, I think I played my last org with Nev. I think it's pretty much what's already been said. Like he's either really fucking good socially and probably one of the best social players I've seen in that regard, but also sometimes he'll just be say busy or have an inactive start and finds himself the first boot. Like what's already been said, I personally am rooting for him, so I hope he goes well. But there's also the very real possibility that he's I don't know, an early boot just because he had a busy start.
All right.
I don't even need to say anything because everything that has been said has been said.
Perfect. All right. Well, with that said, let's move on to our next player returning from the greatest Destino season of all time, the Netherlands.
Shut up. Shut up. That is not true in the slightest.
Nemo! So, once again, I don't really have much of a role in the Netherlands. I've played with Nemo. I've always thought of him to be a pretty strong player. The times I've played with him were casts that were largely inactive, where he was the one actually playing. So it might be a little skewed, but I think Nemo shows tremendous potential, and it's great to see someone come back to redeem themselves from the fate that they beheld in that unfortunate season. So, who has some thoughts on Nemo?
Okay, so
Nathaniel, you want to go first?
yeah, I mean, I played with Nemo in Netherlands. We were closely allied that season even. And yeah, I think if things had been just a little bit different, Nemo would have been a strong contender to win. Then all the stuff happened, and yeah, Nemo was just an unfortunate victim. I've hosted him and played with him a couple of other times as well, and Nemo's a really, 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 really good player. He can be a tad eager at the start, and that can backfire, but I think in recent times he just knows to keep it back a bit. He can be really dangerous. He's really good socially, he's really, really, really good strategically, and he's pretty good physically as well. I think Nemo's probably gonna go really far this season. I think he's one to watch out for.
Yeah, I think I've only played with him once on Canadian, and I think that was when like he first like started playing orgs. So he was like a bit chaotic, but it like definitely like watching him, like he's definitely improved as a player and has the potential to do well.
All right, tell me how you feel about Nemo.
I'm just happy to see Nemo back. I feel like the round he went out in Netherlands, he was trying to make amends with the name I'll not say, and that did not work in his favor, and that caused him to be voted out. And he was considered for All Stars, so he does have that like strong gameplay potential, and I'm very glad to finally see him play again. I just hope this time is a better experience than Netherlands.
Absolutely. All right. Anyone have any final thoughts on Nemo before we continue? All right. So let's move back to the fans tribe. We have four more fans to get through, and so we'll just quickly see if anyone has any thoughts. First up, Paisley. So, Paisley, short and sweet intro, but seems very positive in it. But once again, to go back to the old horse and beat that a few more times, BT's Colt, Paisley does not appear to be involved with. So, maybe not the greatest thing, but we'll see. Maybe Paisley can turn it around. Same with all of them. Anyone have any first thoughts on Paisley?
Basically just what you said. I mean, that's really all we know about Paisley. I don't like saying this because I don't like being negative, but I think what I can see, Paisley is probably gonna be one of the first few boots. But I want to be proved wrong. I hope I'm proved wrong.
All right. Anyone else?
I
Oh, you can go, Kat.
Okay. Um Paisley, I don't really have a lot of opinions about Paisley. Their cast intro is cute, but I don't know. I don't think they're gonna be making it far. Just the vibes aren't there for Paisley for me.
Fair enough. All right. Tommy?
Okay, for Paisley, I like her, but at the same time, I can't get a good read of her. She comes off as a loyal player, but other than that, there wasn't really a lot of substance as far as gameplay or anything with her. I don't know if she'll surprise us. I really do not know.
All right. So, let's move on to, and I want to hope I pronounce this right, Quimi? Quimi?
That's how I'm going to pronounce it.
Let's go with that. So Quimmy, had a pretty nice intro. I thought seemed like a strong personality, someone who I think has potential to get along well with people. But Once again, not in the cult. So, somebody I think, with that kind of personality, that is one that you're generally going to be able to get along well with people if you're very sort of confident, you have all these things to talk about, and we'll see can that turn around for Quimmy or not. Anyone have any thoughts on Quimmy?
I'm actually going to start this time.
Okay.
Queenie is a wolf in sheep's clothing. In her app, she said that she would be cutthroat, cutthroat, and it's like over time. I feel like that is gonna show. Like she comes off as like just based off her manga alone, she looks like the type of person that would be a loyal, heroic personality. I feel like that she's gonna surprise a lot of people.
Okay. Anyone else have any impressions here?
I don't know her, but her vibes are giving like very late pre-merge boot that everyone's gonna scream robbed about.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
It's screaming that to me. That's her vibes. I want to be proven wrong. I really enjoy their vibes. They're a Virgo. I love Virgos, so but I just feel like they're gonna get out like last pre-juror and everybody's gonna be annoyed.
We have sort of a trend on Destino of usually having sort of an iconic earlier boot that has a big kerfuffle upon leaving. I'll use that word, kerfuffle. And I feel like this is almost the vibe where it'd be that too. Like the bitter final words that everyone memes for the rest of the seasons. I think a lot of people have potential for that because you never know for certain. But this sort of personality here, I feel like I could see doing that. But let's move on to someone who is in the cult, Rob. So Rob.
So wait,
Oh,
I have
wait,
one
sorry.
quick question.
Yeah,
Was
go
it
ahead.
posted publicly who's in the cult? Or are you
Yes.
guys just using like your
Yes,
host
it's
perspective?
in the VL confessionals. So BT said it was BT, Rob, Maddie, Marcus, and Marissa.
Okay. I think I'm
So
just blind and missed it.
it's sort of just wedged in there, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah,
Carry
no
on.
worries. So yeah, Rob is the fifth and final member of that cult. Um, so I believe Rob, if I'm not mistaken, is the oldest member of this tribe. Tim or Kyle. But
It's Kyle.
it is Kyle, so Rob's right under. Okay. But nothing comes out of the intro, in my opinion. It's just I'm going to betray and win. So, I'd like to hear Tommy's thoughts on Rob actually, because I'm coming into this a little blind. I don't really get anything out of him right away.
Okay, with Rob at first, I didn't really think much of him, but rereading his interview, he said he wants to come off as a lot more strategic, and I feel like he could do that. But with some of the people on his tribe, PT, I feel like that's gonna be a little bit hard for him. But I do think if Rob does make it deep enough in the game, there will be a point where it shows.
Does he strike you as a game body at all or anything like that? Like, is that your vibe from his application?
Sort of, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering about that just off of that short, sweet intro. So maybe that'll work out. I
We
feel
love
like
a game bot.
game bots can generally be pretty well to work with. People who are just so focused on it, you can just speak to them about that, short and sweet conversations. So maybe that'll work out. And maybe it's a facade too. We'll see. So, anyone have any thoughts on Rob before we move on?
No, I mean Rob seems set up kind of well because of the
Hey y'all,
BT
my name is
thing,
Sean.
but I can just go
27 years old.
on what Tommy said otherwise.
Play this game.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, with that said, we will move on to the final fan, Sean. So I don't think I've watched Sean's video in full. I sort of just clicked on it and listened for a few seconds, but he seems fairly charismatic. But not in the cult. Sorry, Sean. But yeah, it's hard to get a vibe since I haven't seen the full video. But I think definitely someone with personality at some level, and that can be good for like the bare bones social connection. So maybe it's something he can turn around down the road. Anyone have any initial thoughts on Sean?
Uh, I'll start off. Sean to me has some very nice vibes. You mentioned Sean was in the cult.
Not in the cult.
Not in the cult. Okay. Um, I feel like Sean's gonna be somebody that if they go to tribal, then Sean's name may be thrown around. Uh, but that's all I kind of get from Sean. They seem nice, don't have high hopes.
It doesn't help for me that Nathaniel will know who I'm talking about, I'm sure. His Mangatar is a spitting image of an old Facebook player.
Wait,
Uh,
now I need to look
it's-
closer at it. Who?
It reminds me of Trent. Like, it looks just like Trent, doesn't it? The exhale.
Oh my god, you're right.
So, like, that was my first thought was, wait, is that Trent?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Wow.
But yeah. Who was a big name org player on Facebook, for those of you who don't know. But,
I've played with Trent one time on Discord. One of my favorites to play with.
oh yeah, very skilled player. So, Tommy, what are your thoughts on Sean here?
I did make a write up for him. Just give me a second to look it up. Sean seems like a very fluid player in the way that he'll be able to make the game work in the way he best fits. He has potential to have a good run in the game if the stars align in his favor.
All right, perfect. So, I think it's time to jump back to the favorites. And we have someone with a very, very awesome looking Mangatar to start. And that is Sebas. Seabass. I don't know how he wants that pronounced now, but going by Seabass this season. So, coming off of Kalalit Nunat, which Sebas and Logan were a duo that season who made Final Tribal together, and they were an amazing sort of underdog pair the whole season, where there's this whole majority that was against them, and they always found cracks and opportunities to slip through and weaken the majority, split it up. So coming into this without Logan, every other time I've seen Sebastian play in a way that I've hosted him or whatever, he went a little earlier. Usually as a result of swaps and stuff like that, but I'd love to see him be able to sort of, if not find a partner in crime like Logan was for him in the past, be able to just better orient himself this season than he has in the past, because he has had some rough starts. And so, if he can get his footing under him, he's a very creative, very awesome, and interesting player who's willing to take those big risks. Like, he played an idol at his first swap tribal last season, idled out one of the biggest players in the cast. So I think Seabass has a ton of potential to be that high stakes, high risk player that we all want to see, and I'm curious to see if he can find the footing to pull that off. So who has thoughts on Seabass?
Yeah, sorry. I'm sorry. I feel like I go first almost always. But yeah, I love Sebas. He's really, really, really fun as a person. And he's also really good as a player. I think he's underestimated by a lot of people because, as you say, he often has gone early in the past. I know he's a really good player with a strong sense of the strong capability to survive, as you mentioned. So I have high hopes for Sebas this season. And also just, I look forward to just seeing VLs and stuff from him. He's such a fun person.
Alright, anyone else have thoughts on Seabass?
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, I've seen him around in like a few orgs to like the point where it's like I want him to do well, but I feel with like people with like Zephyr and Cam and like Neb, I feel like he doesn't have the potential to like beat them if like it gets down to like the nitty gritty. Even though like I want him to do well.
Yeah, on the other side, I do see him bonding well with all of those players. So I think he's got some like good connections here to help him get off on that right foot, thankfully. But yeah, down the road, that's definitely where it comes down to the hard time, especially just because there is a language barrier here. And that was something that hurt him in Call of Lit is when he made Final Trouble Council. He couldn't outright the other two in speeches.
Hi,
Couldn't understand
Javante.
himself as well. And so that could be something where if he makes Final Trouble Council, his game really has to be able to shine on its own, or else it could be a lot harder to like make his own case. Is what it felt like.
Yeah, and just like as someone who has played with like Cam, Zephyr, and like Neb, it's like I know what they're capable of, so it's like
Mhm.
I have a feeling like they'll do well, and like if they make it to the end, like they'd be like guaranteed to win.
Oh yeah. So anyone else have thoughts on Seabass?
I know I haven't been here this whole time, but can we please talk about his manga?
No, we can't. Sorry.
It's
No, we can't?
literally
Okay, great.
amazing.
Well, we can talk about it. You cannot.
Okay, great. Well, can you please tell the audience where that manga came from?
It came from Seabass.
Really?
Oh yeah, I know. Like
He
he
does his
started
own
hosting
manga
indie, and like he gave Reese a break the one season, and like he made the mangas for the season of indie he hosted.
Yeah, I've hosted him 3 times before, and all but the first time, which was Kyle Lit, the other 2 times he made his own Mangatara, which were Solas and Striver Org Wiki, and then Destino's Challenge season. He made his own Mangatara and did all sorts of cool stuff with it. So
What is it based on? It looks like a specific character, but I
looks
can't
like-
put my finger on it.
I mean, I just got the sense it was something from like vague Hawaiian mythology or Polynesian mythology. I never really got the
Probably.
sense it was something specific per se.
Well, he's already got my vote just for that alone. So.
You're voting him out?
Win, okay.
All right. Well, with that said, let's continue on to our next player, coming to us from Shiratoko. It is Spekt, SPKT, however you want to say it. I still don't know. It's never been confirmed to me.
I think it's like spec as how you would say like spectrum and not like letters
Well,
spelled out. I think that's like
I think when I
personal technique
said
of mine.
aspect, I was just told that's all wrong or whatever, and didn't get a specific answer. So I think I was getting trolled a little. But yeah, let's go with Spect. So, they were. I mean, Shiratoko first off just had this like very interesting dynamic where like all the big name strong players were sitting like that final 6, final 7 range, and you weeded out a lot of the quieter players earlier on, and so that whole end game was just this big eclectic group of elites, and Spect was definitely a member of that, and we have another here with Sungmo right now, and so it's going to be interesting because you're probably going to have a very different playstyle this season because that was very much a result of not having the idols, having joint tribal councils, all these kinds of weird factors. So when you have a more traditional style of a season, that's definitely going to change how it feels. Shiratoko is one of the most different seasons we've done in that kind of sense. And so I'm very interested to see how they'll do here, especially being pretty good at challenges and all that stuff. Especially because I feel like if you look at a lot of this cast, I feel like a lot of the returnees would say they don't feel great about their challenge skills, just knowing the ones I know. And so that's definitely a good thing to have on your side. But I think they should be pretty well set up to start. But they're definitely one of the ones that's going to be a little less flashy to the others right away. But as time goes on, I think Spect is going to become a big focus for people to take out. I don't suspect winning this season, but definitely a force to be reckoned with. Anyone have any thoughts on Spect?
I can actually say something. They're basically the only person I know, so yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think they're the kind of person who can position themselves really well early on, in the sense that like I feel like they're pretty likable. They might not click too well with everyone, but usually I think there's someone who doesn't really seem like the type of person you target at the beginning. I feel like they would be someone that probably reaches merge I feel like they would be able to go pretty far, actually, like into the late merge. The only issue I have is that, well, as you said, in our season there wasn't any kind of advantage, so I don't know how they would play with them. But at least in that season, they were kinda, I wouldn't say like left behind, but I don't think anyone really saw them as a threat, mainly because they were pretty much under the radar. Um, so that's like my fear when it comes to them. But I do think they could be someone really strong, especially if they find their footing within the game. Like if they find people they can get close to, I think they are basically they're basically gonna make it towards the end or somewhere like that. And yeah, that's everything.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much. Anyone else have thoughts on Spect?
I mean, I don't have a lot of experience from playing with or hosting Spect or anything like that, but I've I've played a few like games with them in VLs when joining random voice chats in tribe chats, and they seem like a pretty fun person. So I think I'll agree with what I think Seungmo was the one who just talked. So yeah, I'll agree with what Seungmo said. I also don't think Spect is gonna win. I think they have potential to go real far.
Awesome. Tommy, you have any thoughts on Spec's return? I'll take that as a no. Unless he just forgot he was muted. Alright, with that said, let's move on to our final member of the cast. The one who, out of the favorites, has probably spent the least time actually playing the game, per se. That would be from last season, Zephyr. So Zephyr had a very tumultuous season last time. So we had the Outcast twist in play. And we started with a cast of 19 with the goal that one of them would be extinct right away and sent to Outcast. And Zephyr was the unfortunate victim of that, getting sent straight to the Outcasts. And so managed to fight their way back in, got in off of great turns from everybody, and I think Zephyr had just sort of the short end of the stick. While still able to play decently well during that time, just never was able to get the full footing that they would have had if they were on a starting tribe, as opposed to that outcast position. And so I think coming to this, it's going to be really nice to see Zephyr play in a legitimate way this time around. And I think tons of potential here because Zephyr, obviously, success on other org series, and did well with the little time that they had within Flaming Cliffs to do anything. So now that they're on equal footing, can they make a much more lasting impression in the game, make it further, and do what it takes to win? I think they have a pretty good shot at it, honestly. So I'm looking forward to see how that unfolds. Who has thoughts on Zephyr?
Yeah, I agree with what you said, basically. I think Zephyr's gonna do really well this season, especially without that whole not being there for the pre-merge part. And I think it's important to note as well that during that twist last season, Zephyr actually did get the support to return. I don't think every player would have been able to get that support to return, even if they were in the same situation. I think that was because Zephyr is a really great player. Yeah, I have high hopes for Zephyr this season. I'm not sure if they'll win, but I think they'll go really far. I think they'll probably be a late merge boot.
Yeah, so Zephyr is actually my winner pick because I played both seasons of Phoenix with them, and like they just started playing orgs like 14 months ago, and they've already won twice in like Indie and 80s Viver. And technically, how they did in Flaming Cliffs is technically the only time they've ever gone pre-merge in like any org they've played. And in like both Phoenix, they got 10th. So I think like that's like their lowest placement ever. And they are genuinely like one of the nicest people to like play with and like talk to. And they have like one of the best social games I've ever seen. So I have like really high hopes. And the first org they won was I think their second or third org, which is really good.
All right. Any other thoughts on Zephyr before we move on from the cast assessment?
I'll comment a little bit on Zephyr. While watching Flaming Cliffs, I was kind of shocked to see Zephyr get out first. And then they came back via the Outcasts. And weren't they the person who came back but wasn't in the tie? Or am I going insane?
Yes. Yeah, they were the one that got
Okay.
in off the vote initially.
Yeah. I find Zephyr just really fun to watch, so I'm super excited to see him on this cast.
All right. So, with that said, let's talk a little bit about the tribes. I know we've covered most of our bases, but if there's anything anyone wants to say that they didn't get a chance to say already, this is our chance. So let's begin with our favorite tribe. So Alakai, I believe, or Alakai. Let's go Alakai. That sounds better. We have Sed, Chris, Gavin, Cam, Nat, Neb, Nemo, Sebastian, Spect, and Zephyr. Stacked group of favorites. So, how do you all feel about this group? Do you have any immediate expectations for them? Do you have any predictions about groups you might see forming here? Any first thoughts on this overall favorites tribe?
Yeah,
Favorite is
so
winning this game.
All right.
but yeah, so I'm kind of expecting Cam, Neb, and Zephyr to all work together because the three of them met on season 11 of Phoenix, and then they all like recently like met up in person for the first time a few months ago. So I'm kind of like expecting them to work together just on like past orgs and meeting in real life.
I see, I see. Yeah, that's very plausible, and they're just like stringing a fourth or fifth vote with them kind of deal, whoever they're talking to the most. How do we feel about this tribe's chances of winning immunity? Do we feel they stack up with what limited knowledge we have of their opposition? Do we feel they stack up well against the Fans tribe?
I mean,
I
that's
think they
impossible
do.
to know.
So yeah. Any other initial impressions from this tribe that anyone wants to throw out there?
What does hamster meat taste like?
Thank you, Tommy. Just so you know, Tommy has asked this question to me every day for the past like 4 months.
What?
It's his
Okay, but
favorite
what
question.
does it taste like? Now I'm
I've
intrigued.
answered this a bunch of times to him. It's very stringy, very gamey, but it's sort of like pork in flavor.
I would have said it tasted like hamster meat.
That too. Well, I've tried that too. I've tried a lot of answers. None of them are satisfactory. It's his life quest
The
now.
fact that he answered that, that just shows he's had hamster meat before.
No, I haven't. That's a complete guess, but I feel like it's about right. All right.
Should I ask a PetSmart?
Probably not. All right. Well, let's move on to the fans tribe then. Kanaka, which is BT, Jess, Kyle, Maddie, Marcus, Marissa, Paisley, Quimmy, Rob, and Sean. So, any first thoughts on any alliances that might form here by chance?
This is gonna be a wild guess, but I think there's gonna be an alliance called the Cult.
Really, huh? What do you think might happen with said cult? Like, who do you think might even be in it? That's the supper.
I don't remember who you said, so that's why.
It's BT, Rob, Maddie, Marcus, Marissa.
The triple M's, if you will. You got a
Mm.
lot of M's. And then the other tribe is 3 N's. So it all works out.
Oh yeah.
It's kind of like how we had 3 Z's last season. All right. So, now that we have that all the way, before this podcast, I posted a form, which was some predictions. So, the results, a little more conclusive than I thought they would be. We have 8 total answers. So, I'll just sort of thumb through them. So, thank you to everyone who filled this out. But obviously, with the boot list, you have some scattered stuff, but most of them do have a set answer. Most of the time, it's a 2 to 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 to 1 split, but still, that's 2 votes. So for first boot, we have with 2 votes, Paisley from the fans. Mostly predicted for fans, but Gavin and Chris also have votes to be the first boot. We have Kyle with 3 votes as the second out. For third out, only 4 people got votes. 3 votes on Gavin, 2 votes on Jess and Quimmy, and 1 vote for Nemo. So a lot of people not feeling Gavin this season. And a lot of these early ones are just fans across the board. 17th, we have Sean and Paisley. 16th is Rob and BT. So it's just a decimation of the fans. Spect is predicted for 15th. Chris for 14th. Marissa and Rob for 13th. Just all over the board now. The rest of them all have 1s across the board. 10th is Nemo, apparently, with 3 votes. Maddie for 9th with 3 votes. Seabass for 8th with 2 votes. BT for 7th with 2 votes. Cam for 6th and 5th. And who is our winner pick after all this? Sed. Sed with 2 votes is the winner of this season. And somebody put Paisley as the winner. The only fan.
What?
Oh, wait, no, Maddie did too. Maddie and Paisley both got a winner vote alongside Neb, Nemo, Zephyr, and Cam.
I mean,
So
I was the
obviously-
cam vote. I revealed that, but
I was one of the said votes. I will reveal that.
Yeah, I was Zephyr.
So obviously that one was going to be messy, but I was just curious to see where people were feeling. But it's funny that there's a vote for Paisley to win, but she's also the decided one for first out too. So
Honestly, I'm kind of glad that like I wasn't the only one who kind of like did mine based on like a decimation of the fans tribe.
I did too.
I actually tried to trade it evenly, just to see how it might feel. It didn't feel good.
I think it like helps like we know how like most of the favorites play, so it's like
Yeah.
Mm.
easier to put them like knowing like who the social people are and who are likely to get like 4th and 5th and stuff like that.
Yeah. I
Yep.
think I put the people not in the cult as the first 5 boots, and then did the other 5 in random spots.
Yeah, I think like my top like 5 people were like Sed, Zephyr, Neb, Cam, just like people I know would like be able to make a deep run.
Well, let's move on to some of the other things we had now. So, player of the season was very divided. So, we had 8 submissions and 7 people received votes. So, 1 vote apiece for expectations for Cam, Gavin, Chris, Sed, BT, and Zephyr to win player of the season. And 2 votes for Nemo to be our player of the season. So, we
I
have
was one of
predicted
those.
Nemo to be player of the season. Fan favorite was kind of a blowout. Receiving exactly 50% of the votes. It's Cam.
Mm.
So we have Cam predicted, then 2 votes for Zephyr, 1 vote apiece for BT and Sed. So we're predicting Nemo's player of the season, and Cam as fan favorite. And now, really the part I was really excited to see what people put. What is something crazy you expect to happen this season? We got some good ones. So I'm just going to go through all these just to say what's been said. So, another vote tie at Final Tribal Council. Okay. So, just to be clear, the last time we've had a Final 3 without that was Serengeti. So, it's fully possible it happens if we have a Final 3 here. We have an unmerge. Rocks or a double idol play. Someone will get eliminated because they voted incorrectly in a close vote, like a 3-2-1 or a 4-3-2. I know which one Nathaniel's is. Final Tribal Council tie. Wait, never mind. That's Destino's standard. Rocks with a 1-0 idle play at the conjoining vote. Very interesting, Nathaniel.
Mm,
BT will overplay himself out. This would be 2 idle outs and 2 swaps pre-merge. 3 unanimous votes in the merge, and 3 advantage-related plays being made. And my personal favorite, from Javante, someone will sing the entirety of Shiny from Moana completely unprovoked. So, yeah, that's everything I got for y'all. So, anyone have anything else they'd like to say on this season before we're done here?
I think it's going to be a great season. I mean, I think it was yesterday we discussed it.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be ranked 6th in the tier list.
Oh, that would have been a good
high
question to
tier.
add. I was thinking
Yeah.
of other questions. I forgot about that one.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great season. I mean, with a cost like this, I have a hard time seeing how it doesn't. I mean, things can always happen, but I have very high hopes.
All
Okay,
right.
so for the people hosting, like, what kind of twists do you guys want to see happen?
Yeah, Tommy, what kind of twist do you want to see? Javante, what kind of twist do you want to see? Your silence speaks volumes.
Wait, Petite, are you not hosting?
I am not hosting. I'm doing the battle pass.
Oh.
And I'm hosting another org that's going to take a lot of my time. So, with that said, I think we're all good here. I'm going to end the video. Thank you all for appearing. We will see you next time on Destiny.